We're really happy to have Stephen Hinchey again to judge for us. This is the second time. We really appreciated his comments and suggestions and from the last time, and he's here by popular demand to judge for us again tonight. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Stephen, and I'll bring up the screen.
I want to thank Joel for getting my last name right. Somebody's never met me.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, sorry, I got to share screen. Got to get my screen big enough so I can do that. There we go. Okay, now if all has gone well, you should see Monochrome Thursday, January 27th, basic 6 images.
Yep.
Good. Okay, we're off and running. First category is Monochrome, starting at the basic level. And if I can hit. And there's our first image. Onward and upward. Go ahead, Stephen.
This was really good. It was a little dark in the first and the third person. There was no detail there, but this was a really interesting picture. Might also be considered creative. So I really enjoyed the use of turning everything to monochrome so that we can really see the patterns in the floors and in the stairs. And the big ball doesn't get a distraction. We're not pulled away by colors distracting us. We can really see the circular patterns on the wall. So I really appreciate that you made this monochrome to let us see that very much. Thank you. Next.
Might remind everyone that if you aren't planning to speak to Stephen right away, mute your computer. Doorway to Middle Earth.
My first thoughts when I saw this were it's really dark. The door is really dark. But I don't want you, the more I looked at it, the more interested I got into it. And I didn't want you to change the contrast at all because I really am appreciating that wave across the top of the door. And I really appreciate how dark it is and how stark the white is in the really sharp contrast between the dark and the light. So I thought that was well thought out to make this a very sharp contrast. The only thing that would make this better, I think, was if you could have waited for that bicycle to be moved. Thank you. Next.
Home foraging. Fungi, Hymengotracia. Not bitter when cooked, but still poisonous.
What I appreciate here is that you got down to take this picture. You weren't shooting down on the mushrooms. A lot of people just stand and take pictures. You got down, and this is more than just getting down on your knees. You got really down on the ground to take this. A beautiful picture, beautifully clear, nice depth of field so that just the mushroom is in focus and everything else is just blurry. Maybe burn down the background a little so it's a little less distracting, but I love that I can see the underside of this mushroom. Thank you. Next.
Dredging for dinner.
Really nice. I love those splashes of water, really flash. The only problem I had with this was that I couldn't see a catchlight in his eye. And it makes him look dead, unfortunately. So just something you should be aware of to make sure you can see a catchlight in the eye, and that's usually a dead giveaway between a live animal and a stuffed animal. But I like this. I like the reflection is not perfect. I really think that's nice. And a lot of times I want people to use either the whole image and part of the reflection or part of the image and all of the reflection. In this case, because the reflection is so different from the bird. I appreciated that you had both of them. So that was well caught. And I like that we can see the water trailing off. I don't mind, you know, some people might say there should be more space in front of him than behind. I disagree. I think the spacing you've got here is very good. Thank you. Next.
Alone by the river.
This is a really hit you in the gut for me. It's more than just an intellectual message. It's a gut feeling message, and I really thought that you, if that's the case, and I'm interpreting this correctly, I think you did a really good job of transmitting that message to us. And I think that the whiteness of the building in the upper left competes with the whiteness of his jacket. The whiteness of his jacket keeps bringing us back to him, and that's your subject. So I wish that he was lighter than the building. So if you could have burnt down the building, I think that would have improved it, because I think he, with this setting, is a really good subject. Thank you. Next.
Lost and found.
Now, in this case, it's really interesting. I wish that the contrast had been a little different. The glove is very interesting, but it sort of fades into the background. It sort of becomes part of the trees and the doorway. It's not always easy to see where the glove ends and the other objects begin. So if you could have adjusted the contrast a little, I think, to make the glove stand out a little bit more, I think it would have been more enjoyable. Thank you. Next.
Intermediate 4 images. I'm ready for my close-up.
Really nice shot of her. Great lighting, really good lighting. Her right arm, the underarm, is a little distracting. If you look under her left arm, it looks like she's got natural hair there. And so I think that on her right arm, you went in and tried to smooth it out. And I don't think you did as good a job as you would have liked to have done. Because I really like the lighting on her. If you've got a model who's going to show up with natural hair, I think that you just have to leave it there and accept it. I think that's part of her look. But I really like the lighting that you did with her. Thank you. Next.
Alone and waiting.
A really, really good shot again here. Now you can see the catch light in their eyes, but you can see each of their feathers. You can see all their feathers sticking out. A really good depth of field. Anything in front of them is sort of blurred out, and the background is very much not a distraction at all. Great light right on the birds. It's like you got spotlights out there just for these 3 birds, and I don't know how you got 3 of them, because that's the magic number. But well done. I really like your depth of field and your clarity and this. It's really interesting to look at and to think about a story behind each of these birds. They're waiting for mom. What's it that they're looking at? Well done. Thank you. Next.
By the bay.
Really nice, really nice. I appreciate that you captured the top of the boat, so it doesn't, we know how tall it is above her. If you haven't captured where it started to come back, I think the boat would have looked too menacing on her. So I think that was very good. I like that we don't need the whole reflection of her. We just got a little, we've got a foreground, a midground, and a background. Really nice, good lighting, a lovely subject. Thank you. Next.
Foxtail pine above the Kern Kaweah River.
A great image. I like that you again, I think you chose black and white, because this, maybe the blue sky was too distracting and wouldn't let us really appreciate this tree. Converting it to black and white brings our focus away from the sky. We're not distracted by it. We get to see this lovely tree. We get to see some good detail in the shadows. It's not completely black. So I appreciate that you captured it that way. We get to see all the detail in this lovely tree, and the rocks aren't blown out. They're not too white. They're interesting. So I think you did a really good job capturing this. Thank you. Next.
Advanced level 7 images. Old barn with conifers.
I like this barn. There's some interesting, there are some interesting comparisons here. You can compare the barn to the trees behind it. They're both going up and down. You can compare and contrast. You can compare the barn to the fence in front of it and come up with a story there and what's telling you. What I'm trying to understand and what I'm failing to understand is the softness. It's not really sharp. It's just a little off. So I'm wondering, what story are you trying to tell me by just being a little off, not quite tack sharp? So you had the time. Is this an old image that you scanned? I'm just, and it's up to me to try to understand, but it's also up to you to make it clear what you're trying to tell me. And I don't think the title tells me why you chose this. Be just a little off sharp. Thank you. Next.
Limestone cliffs, fallen rocks in the eastern Atlantic, the rugged coast of southwest Portugal.
Great detail in this image. I love that you can see the cleft in the cliff as it goes up, and you can imagine that these rocks here in the foreground fell out of that. And I love the detail. So your depth of field here was really, really good, that we have detail everywhere, detail in these rocks and detail in the cliff. The sky is not distracting. It's just the right shade. We're not being pulled away from the rocks. And the rocks are sort of lighter around that cleft, so it brings you into focus in that cleft. So I think this was well seen and well taken care of. Thank you. Next.
Dancing in the dark.
This had so many things to think about and look at. You could even imagine this as a nighttime scene with a full moon. I think it's well done enough. And there are three things you can compare and contrast. The clouds, the trees, and the ground are all very different. And how do they all interact? What is this dance that the trees are doing? So there's I think probably a couple of different messages people could create on their own from this. I think it's a very interesting photograph. There's not one place that your eye will eventually settle. Your eyes will always keep moving. Sometimes you wish that there was some place you could land and rest for a second, but it's a really interesting and creative image. Thank you. Next.
The photographer.
I had to think about this one a lot. I'm glad that you put someone in there, that you had someone in there to give us a sense of scale. But his shadow, it would seem to me to be, if the shadow is like that, then the sun should be much lower down on the hills. So I spent a lot of time, worrying about why is his shadow the way it is? Where is the light coming from that's creating his shadow? And that sort of disturbed me, prevented me really from enjoying the rest of the image, because I do like the trail that leads up from the lower right up and eventually to him, and I do like the color, the rocks behind him, the shades in them. There's just something, unfortunately, that I can't understand about this person that's been placed here. Thank you. Next.
Ambience.
Lovely. I hope that you took a lot of pictures of this from a lot of different angles and from different heights, because I thought it was very lovely. I thought your lighting was very good. This is really a little serene, but it's a good example of taking a still life. And I love the rays that the light is, by casting through these ferns, the rays the light is casting on the table. So I found this very interesting and very charming and delightful. Thank you. Next.
Hidden treasure.
The lighting here is very well done. You've got a nice dark background, and the treasure was interesting because you have all these triangles formed by the leaves, but then the treasure in the center there is not triangles. So you had some really good abstract shapes to enjoy here and to work with, and that's one of the things that Monochrome is really good at, is working with shapes. So I really appreciated this. The light is brightest mostly around your treasure, and it falls off quickly as the leaves get further and further from the center of your treasure. You've got the treasure a little off center, so it's much more interesting, but it doesn't start in the corner. If that had started down in the corner, it would not be as interesting. Bringing it in a little from the corner gives it a little tension, makes it a much more interesting image, and having it all flow out to the right makes it a much more interesting image. So thank you for doing this. Next.
Love has many faces.
Yeah, what a great shot. A terrific shot of this dog, and you know, there's not much to say bad about it. A good depth of field. The dog and the legs and the hands are in focus. I wish his hand was a little bit more in to the image. I don't like the amputation that you've done on his fingers. You know, if it had been done through half of the hand, I would not have felt so bad about it. But chopping off his ring finger like that, some people don't mind that. Some people really mind it. I'm just a little not entirely happy with it. Let's say that. But it's a good black and white shot of that dog. Great shot of the dog. Thank you. Next.
Master's level, 6 images. Alone.
Yeah, he is alone. I don't know how you captured this because it's just him. Maybe you did a lot of work just to get him. I like that we get all his feathers, that everything looks sharp. I don't see any catch light. That was a little disturbing. You put him in a great spot in the photo. You didn't center him, so that's nice. You put him in one of the recommendations for a hot spot, so it adds a little tension, a little interest, and the light really is nice. It's sharp bright on the bird's face and chest, and then falls off well towards the rest of the bird. So well done there. Thank you. Next.
Joshua Tree National Park.
Again, I think that moving this to black and white helped you. The sky probably wasn't participating well, and you in this case, you want us to see everything: the foreground, the tree, the background, the mountains, the sky. So you want it all in focus. And there aren't a lot of geometric patterns, but the tree, the tree is interesting. The tree is, we get to see parts of the tree. It's not, some of it's in shade, so it's really dark, but then it pops out. So we have the contrast there, and you can come up with ideas on the tree and what's going on with it and why it's here. It's in a good position in the photo, and it's enjoyable. It's a good reminder of what Joshua Tree looks like. Thank you. Next.
Nairobi, Kenya.
This is another, this one grabs you in the gut, and this makes you. This is one you could think about and talk about for a long time, and think about what's going on in this person's life. It looks like there are buckets of charcoal in front of him. is he selling charcoal? Why is he hanging out under that roof? It sort of feels like there might be a storm coming. So there are all sorts of things you could talk about and feel about with this image. I think it was well captured and well thought out. I'd like to know more about him. It's an interesting photo. Thank you. Next.
The indigenous population of Hawaii still actively honor their gods through the many altars and art on the islands.
A really interesting use to me of depth of field, because the first statue is really sort of soft. The next one's a little bit more in focus, and then he's really in focus. And so you have the comparison of him with the other two gods, and I thought that was really interesting. Even his look sort of reminds me of the gods, his eyes and all. His mouth doesn't, but the eyes do. And I thought this was really really interesting, really something you could talk about. What's the message here? What's the relationship? It really talks about the relationship of the indigenous population to their gods, and I think it was really well captured. Thank you. Next.
Thundering zebras. When you hear hoofs, think horses, not zebras, unless it's zebras.
Nice title. Great picture of these zebras. They're really lovely. I think that, and this is my interpretation, that you went a little overboard with the vignetting. It seems to be a bit much, especially around their legs. So I wish you had backed off just a little on the vignetting, because it's interesting to look at these guys. And I know that each zebra is their stripes are supposed to be unique. So I went looking for what was unique between the two, what was different, what made what in their stripes was different. So a really good shot otherwise. Thank you. Next.
Invasive.
An interesting title. I had to think, oh, where are they invading? There are only a few that are brightly lit, and even fewer that are really in focus. So interesting use of depth of field to bring my attention to the guys, to the plants in the front, and sort of hide the plants in the rear. I'd like to know a little bit more about what they're invading, what makes them, because they look lovely. They don't look like a weed, but if they're invasive, they're not where they're supposed to be. Well thought out. I think this rather than, I don't want you to crop out the plant on the far left, but maybe burn it down so it's not so noticeable. I do not want you to crop this down. I think that would deter from the image. I just want to make that plant a little less noticeable. Thank you. Next.
Nature. Basic 3 images. Longhorn B, Melicides species. This medium-sized bee is common across the continent and often seen visiting sunflowers, zinnias, asters, and daisies.
A really nice story. I don't know. I guess the feelers are why he's called the Longhorn B. Really nice. We can see his legs, and I don't know what if you call these hairs on a bee, but we can see all of them. Really good depth of field so that he's in focus or it's in focus, and the plant is a little bit less in focus. So I think that was a good capture. The story goes well with the image, so I think it does make a good nature story. Thank you. Next.
Chestnut-eared araucari, Pteroglossus castanetus, in central Brazil, leaves her tree trunk nest for fruit and insects for her chicks.
Well, an amazing bird that you've got just peeking out of her nest in the tree. So that part is just amazing. I feel because images are two-dimensional, I feel like the bird is going to run into that tree on the left. And I'm wondering if your image would work as well if and I'm going to use that 4-letter word crop, if that tree was cropped out, how that would affect your image. But it's a great picture of this bird and you know, a good story to go with it. Thank you. Next.
Suckling infant, Balinese long-tail monkey, Macaca fascicularis, infant 1 to 6 months old, latches to mother. Monkeys can wander from their sanctuary onto city streets in Ubud, Indonesia.
So a good nature story. I'm guessing that this is the city streets that they've wandered into. Since you're talking about both the mother, the infant, and the mom, I wish they were both in focus. Your depth of field is so shallow that the mom is in focus, but the infant's face is really out of focus. So I wish your depth of field was a little bit deeper to bring them both into focus. Other than that, I think a good picture to go with this story. Thank you. Next.
Intermediate, 2 images. Rare Indian flamingos, Funicaparis andrus, at Laguna Brava at 14,000 feet high Salt Lake in Argentine Altiplano, among the highest volcanoes in the world, La Rioja province, Argentina.
Well, I like the image of the story. I think you're trying to overreach with the story. You have the story about the rare flamingos and then the highest volcano. And so I sort of wish you had stuck with one or the other. And in this case, I wish you had stuck with telling us more about these flamingos. You know, because I would never have thought to them to be at 14,000 feet high. So that in and of itself is a really interesting story. And so I would have liked to hear more about that. Because the picture is really about them. And I don't identify the volcano in the image. So that's my only qualm about this. It's a good image, though. Thank you. Next.
Barn owls, Tyto alba, often mate for life. Male left has whiter body and facial disc. Female right has an apricot-colored chest with more distinctive speckling and dark line around the facial disc.
So to me, this is a really, really good nature story. It tells me something I didn't know. I didn't know how to identify a male and a female barn owl. And I think even now, if I saw them separately, maybe I could still identify a female and the male. So I think that's a really good storyline. And I think it's a great picture of these two. They're really clear. We can see all their feathers. Everything's really nice and sharp. We can see the catch light in the female's left eye. So I think it's a really good image of these two to go with a really good story. Thank you. Next.
Nature Advanced. Feeding frenzy. California sea lions, Xolophus californius, scramble to feed on sardines during an upwelling in the Monterey Bay.
I'd never seen that many sea lions feeding at once. So a really good story. You've told me where we are, who we are. We're sea lions. We're in Monterey Bay, and why we're there. We're you know, sardines are there's an upwelling of sardines right now. So you've hit the big spots for journalism, and it's a good picture of all of these sea lions. I've never seen so many at one spot. When they weren't just holed out for nesting. So well done, thank you. Next.
A mute swan, Cygnus olor, one of the heaviest flying birds, shows its powerful takeoff mode on a pond at Ellis Creek.
A good story. Maybe tell me a little bit more about their powerful takeoff mode for people who aren't fully aware of it. A great picture of showing it of the splashes where their feet were. So that's why it's good that you kept all that to the left of the swan so that we can see it. Great image of the swan's feathers and his wings as they're trying to flap and give him lifting. It must have been a really low light. The light falls off pretty quickly in the background. Good and bad. The good is that the background isn't distracting you. What's lit is the swan's path. And I think that's all natural. I'm just wondering how it was created, because it's a great image of this swan. So thank you for that. Next.
Great blue heron. The heron has long legs, a sinuous neck, and a thick dagger-like yellow beak. When taking off, the neck takes on an S shape. Wings are broad and rounded as the legs trail behind.
Okay, so again, something I didn't know about, the neck taking on this S shape when they take off. I wasn't aware of that. The bird is nice and clear. A great shot of its wings, and the feathers spread, I think, on the up flap to not create a downdraft. And a really sharp image of this bird coming in, nice spacing on either side. So I think that it told me something in this image and you showed it to me. Thank you. Next.
A circumhorizontal arc, visible here behind silage piles, is a near horizon arc, extends parallel to the horizon. The arc occurs only when the elevation of the light source is more than 58 degrees.
Okay, you've told me what it is and why it is. I had never heard of these circumhorizontal arcs. I think it's a great image of it. I'm glad you kept all the sky and let us understand the circumstances of the sky. Because that's what's important, I think, as part of creating this weather phenomenon. And I know that the silage stuff in front isn't as appealing, but that light is just lovely to see. It almost looks like the Northern Lights have crept down to California. So I think that was good for you to see it, and thank you for informing me how this is formed. Thank you. Next.
Clathrus ruber. This mushroom is also known as the basket stinkhorn or red cage due to its shades of red and mature lattice structure. This is one of two, the second image. Although some specimens may be edible in their immature egg-shaped form, the mature adults are slimy and smell like rotting flesh.
I'm trying to put on my editor's hat and wonder if you need both images. And I realize that there's a 200 character limit on titles for nature, which is unfortunate, because this right here is a lovely image, and it's a great story to go with it. I know that you wanted to tell me what happens when they mature, and that's why you included the second image. I really think this is a much more powerful image than the second image. This one here, we get to see the whole of the mushroom and its lattice structure. So can we go on to the second image? Now you've given us a close-up. This image really doesn't tell us much more than the previous one did, but you've told us why you're sticking with this. They're immature form, and that they're slimy and smell like rotting flesh. And at this point, I'm thanking that we don't have smell-o-vision, but so it's interesting. I know I spent a lot of time recently with some photo editors, and this was something that they talked a lot about, is in sequences, do you need all the images in the sequence? And can you get by with just telling it with a fewer number of images? So well done. I really like that first image, and a really good story. Thank you. Next.
Polar bears is a sequence of 4. Ursus maritimus are sea mammals adapted to life on sea ice, eating seals. In summer, they cannot hunt, so they must fast. In fall, they gather on the shore, waiting for ice and food. Male bears spend a lot of time sparring with each other in preparation for mating season. Serious injuries are not common with sparring. They spend even more time sleeping. Often they chew on kelp to fill their stomachs, although there is no food value, and sometimes doze off while chewing, like this big guy. Mothers with cubs born in the current year tend to stay away from the males who see small cubs as a food source. Moms with cubs are the last to get out on the ice.
So a really interesting story. I think the first 2 images tell the same story. The first 2 images are both about sparring. If you really look at them, they're really good images, but I think the second image is better. And I think this is really a really good sparring image of these 2 bears. And I think that's, that's a really good story that you could have told with this one image. You could have talked about the bears sparring and gone with that. So I think that first image was perhaps a duplicate of this one. The next image is of, you told us what happens, when they don't get enough food, that they're trying to fill themselves with kelp. So that relates back to what you tried to say in the first about them waiting on the ice for the arrival of the seals. So I think you've spread out your story a little bit. You have some really great images, and this last one of the mother and her cub, that's another good story. I knew that the males, didn't really care for cubs and would kill them if they weren't their own cubs. So that's another good story. I think you told a lot of good stories, but perhaps a little repetitious in the images. Thank you. Next.
Great egret. Egrets hunt in wetlands while waiting or standing immobile, but occasionally swim out and dip for their prey. They can even capture fish by jabbing them with their sharp yellow bill.
So I didn't know about the jabbing, so that was interesting. And this is a really great, this is a really good picture of this egret. It's a lovely picture of their wings spread out, giving them balance, and the action photo. And I'm appreciating the reflection of the wings in the water. So that's, I don't know what an editor would do with that, but I appreciate this image for that. So it's a good story and a strong image to go with it. Thank you. Next.
Nature Masters, 3 images. Monarch butterflies clustering for warmth on a eucalyptus tree in the Pacific Grove Monarch Butterfly Sanctuary. As the temperatures near 55 degrees, a few open their wings in preparation for flight.
Now this is a really good picture of something, I just learned this, I watched something on PBS about butterflies, and that they open their wings to try to get the sun to heat them up and give them, warm them up so that they can take flight. And here you've got a great picture of them. The ones that are really orange are the ones that are opening up their wings and trying to capture the sun's energy in preparation for taking flight. I like that. I like that you didn't just capture them all with their wings closed and just sleeping, and you've gone down there to get them early in the day when they're starting to wake up. And so there's a little difference between the two, and I think that your story tells that fact. So a good image to go with a good story. Thank you. Next.
Peregrine falcon, Falco peregrinus, has caught a European starling in midair that it will eat. The leg band indicates this is a 6-year-old bird that was banded in a nest about 25 miles away.
Wow. So good work on researching this and telling us what the banding means. And and that it, it tells us that the bird is sick. And okay, a really good picture of this peregrine falcon. The starling, well, it's a good picture of the starling. He just doesn't like what's in store for him. I'm amazed at how well this came out, how close you could get to, what a nice lens you have to get such sharpness in both of them. I think it's a really sharp image. I think it's a really good image, and you told a good story about it and identified both birds. That was very nice. Thank you. Next.
Sequence of 2, Nidula niviotomentosa, one of 2. The woolly bird's nest fungus begins as a small white globe, but soon forms a cap, which eventually disappears to reveal the eggs, paradiddles. About a 1/4 inch in height, the splash cup structure allows raindrops to eject the eggs and begin the reproduction process anew. Santa Rosa, California.
Really, really good story. This image makes the story. I mean, this is a really lovely image, and it shows us, as you tell us, all 3 stages of the fungus. We see the small white globe, we see the cap, and we see the cups. So this is you did a really good job here with an image that supports your story and a story that supports your image. And the next one, gives us a little bit more information about how the eggs get dispersed. Would this make it? Probably in in the story somewhere, yes. The other one might be the intro image, and this one later on in the story. But it's a really informative story because I didn't know about this splash cup and the raindrops pushing it out. So again, I learned something new, and it's a really, really good story. I'm just no. Yeah, I can deal with just the first cup and the branch being in focus and the other cups being out of focus, because the background is very much out of focus and it's not disturbing. So we come back to these cups. So well done. Thank you. Next.
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. We've covered 2 categories. We have 2 more to go.
There you go.
Hey.
Interesting. On my screen, it looked the same both ways. So I'm glad you caught that.
Well, this is eternity. Usually if you lead people down a tunnel, you want a payoff at the end. But in this case, the title tells you you're not going to get a payoff. So the title really helps your image here, because you're going to be stuck in an infinite loop right there in the middle, going around the petals. As you fall off one petal, you get caught in the next one, and it just spins you around. So the petals just keep looping you around down to the center. So a really good title for this image, and really well shot. Nice sharpness on the front middle, and I like the way it falls off towards the edges. Thank you. Next.
Evening magic at the marina.
I love the sunset lighting that you got here, and I'm glad that there's all these lights in the marina, because otherwise the marina would have been just this black spot in the lower half of your image. It is a little it's a little disturbing that the horizon is sort of right in the middle of your image. I wish you had moved the horizon a little off the center. It just makes the image more interesting. Shows a bit more technique skills if the horizon isn't dead center. Thank you. Next.
Intermediate. Sunset on Whitney View Lake.
What makes the image for me is the rocks breaking up the reflection here. if it was just the sky and the reflection, oh, that would have been nice. But the rocks break up the reflection that makes the image more interesting. So that was well done. Some people complain about horizons not being perfectly level. Well, face it, folks, that's the real world. Horizons aren't always perfectly level. Deal with it. So it doesn't bother me that your horizon isn't straight across. I just, again, wish it was a little bit further away from the center. But well done for your reflection. I like reflections. Thank you. Next.
Pink Delight.
Oh, Red Delight. I love the colors. I love the red in the clouds and the green in the grass. And this tree is a spectacular being lit from behind by the red clouds and not the sun. So that is really nice. I'm glad there's another tree in it. I think it would have been boring. The image would not, I think, have worked as well if there hadn't been another tree in it, at least to me. I'm glad that we can see this green foreground, the tree in your subject and the skies in your background really work well together, the three pieces of this image. So I think you did a really good job of capturing this image and presenting it to us. The tree is off center a little, so it makes it more interesting. It would not have been anywhere near as interesting if the tree was moved over to the right a little. So I think you did a good job with that. Thank you. Next.
Sailing Rock, Racetrack Playa, Death Valley. When conditions are right, these rocks sail across the dried lake bed.
Yeah, a really good picture. You had to go out to find one where you could just find one rock. Whenever I've been up there, there's always been multiple rocks. So I appreciate that you went off and found just one rock. You put it in one of the suggestion of thirds position, the lower left corner to give it more tension. You didn't put it in the middle, so we appreciate that. The horizon is a little up off center. Great, that makes for a much more interesting image. You included some sky because that's nice. It gives you a sense of location, but the playa, the racetrack, is really what's important here. And so your image contains most of that. And you wanted to show how long the track that this rock has left over how much time. So I really like that I can see all of the playa, all of the cuts in it, all of the grooves. So well done. Thank you. Next.
Mustard above Tamales Bay.
What I like about this, you got down and you made just a few of the mustard plants the subject. A lot of people would have stayed standing and just taken a picture of the whole, all the plants in the meadow. You got down and said, I want you to focus on just these few plants. So you picked a good depth of field. All the rest of the plants are out of focus, but these guys are really nicely in focus. You got down and shot just them. You give us some indication of the background, but it's all out of focus, nice and soft in the background. That's really great. So I think you did, a good job of getting down and grabbing this picture and interesting us in just a few plants. I think that's much more interesting than just showing us the whole valley of plants in this case. So thank you for doing that. Next.
Dramatic sunset above Galatz Lake, located approximately 40 miles via backpacking from the nearest road head in Sierra Nevada, California.
Now this is a really nice picture. I love sunsets and I love reflections. I just wish they weren't 100% mirrors of each other. And there's some, there are some plants in the water breaking it up a little. It's still, I wish you could have done something to reduce one of them, to show us all of the clouds in one and just part of it in the rest. I think that would have been more interesting. Perhaps come down on the sky a little bit, because I think that the reflection in the water is more interesting. Then we would see the reflection in the water and think about what the sky is rather than being told what the sky is. So just think about that a little and watch your horizon line. Thank you. Next.
Advanced, 4 images. Bullseye.
Wow. I mean, that's you got so close that we can see you in the bullseye. So that really was quite amazing. An extremely shallow depth of field, because some of his fur is really so sharp you can count the hairs, and then it falls off pretty quickly. His lashes are there. You can see the individual lashes. So really interesting to get up that close. And I think it's interesting that you got your reflection in the bullseye. I think that to me makes the image more interesting. If you'd have tried to do something to get rid of that, I don't think the image would have been as fun. Thank you. Next.
Rosa, just Joey.
I don't know what just Joey means, but Rosa looks lovely. I love all the colors. So in this case, most of the plant is in focus, just really soft focus around the edges. It looks like there's a little vignetting, which is great. I think it was well done here. And I really like in this case, you don't have a hole to fall into. You just curl around these leaves, and then you can sort of fall out to the next leaf on the bottom. That sort of takes you out to the outer level, and then you fall back in. So I really enjoying looking at these leaves. I really like the color that you've gotten, and I think you did a good job with the lighting. Thank you. Next.
Oahu chicken.
An interesting technique, an interesting filter that you've placed here. The filter, the chicken seems to sort of blend into the background. I would have liked if his beak had been a little bit more prominent, a little bit more distinguished, so it didn't feel like it was the background. And all his feathers down towards the ground just sort of seem to spread out and become the ground. So I don't know where the chicken really ends and the ground begins, but that might be the story you're trying to tell, that there is that the chicken does become part of the ground. It is part of the earth. I like the treatment on his back. I think the black treatment around the edges of the feathers is really interesting. But overall, the part about the beak is what's really bothering me in this image. Thank you. Next.
Joshua Tree under Milky Way.
A difficult capture because you've got a really bright light source on the far horizon, and that is always going to screw up your pictures of the Milky Way. I don't know whether you did a long exposure or you did multiple exposures, and on one of them you just lit up the tree. I think you did a great job. It's really tough not to it's really easy to over lighten the tree and it all turns white, but here you still have the colors, the greens and yellows from the tree, so you captured that. And there's nothing you can do about light sources that are around you. You have to deal with them. They're encroaching everywhere. It's really tough to find a spot to take Milky Way shots that don't have a light source around them. So I think it's a really good shot of the Milky Way given the constraints of the nature of the land that you're in. But I like that I can see the ground in front of us. It's not all black. The tree is interesting, and I like the background of the Milky Way behind the tree. Thank you. Next.
Masters, 12 images. Old man, Lalibela, Ethiopia.
Oh, lovely shot of this gentleman. Really a good lighting. I don't know what he does, but but his hands and his face are really very interesting. Everything's well lit and very sharp. We're not losing focus on anything, and you can look right into his eyes. That's really an interesting trick. And I noticed it on a few images. Somebody must have come in and given you a program night on using borders. And in this case, the border really works. Otherwise, it just would have fallen off onto the screen. But the border distinguishes where your image ends. And I think it gives the image more impact to show that it's not just falling off to infinity, but this is where it ends. So I think in this case, it's a really good choice. Thank you. Next.
I think we should row faster.
Yeah, people used to complain that I had freighter identification tests when I used to take them sailing on the bay. It's really nice. You've captured the bow wave breaking up and leading in. It's a little square. The boat is sitting dead center in your image. There doesn't really seem to be a lot of tension. What's to make this image something you really want to talk about and think about, and will leave an impact on you after you leave tonight. Some of the other images I think will leave an impact on you and you'll think about them after tonight. This is one of the ones I don't think will leave an impact on you, but it's well taken. I just don't see the story behind it. Thank you. Next.
At over 10,000 feet, Mount Lassen is high enough to keep many of the park roads closed until weeks after Labor Day.
Well, a great shot of Mount Lassen. I love the sky. I love the clouds behind it. As I've said, the horizon isn't always going to be level, but sometimes it is going to be stuck right in the middle of an image. So I'm not concerned with the horizon not being level, because I don't think it should be. I just wish it would. I think the image would be a little bit more interesting if the horizon was moved one way or the other, up or down. Other than that, a lovely image. Thank you. Next.
Oaks and lace lichen.
When I saw this, the first thing I thought was kudzu, and all I could think of was this lichen is killing the trees, suffocating them is what I felt so there was a gut feeling for me when I saw this image of these trees are dying, and I think that using just a little light up in the upper right, and it sort of creeps around the top of the image, and then it's much darker down toward the image bottom, sort of reinforces that for me. So I think that works well if that is the message you're trying to send with this image. I think there's a message in every image, and it's up to us to try to find what message is being sent, because in these titles we don't always have a lot of room to say what our message is. So I think this is well done. Thank you. Next.
September song.
So I like the leading line of the river, leads us into the image. And as it curves out, we can imagine where it goes, and we can make up stories of what happens if you follow this river. What's downstream? What do you see? Because if the river had gone straight, we would have said, well, the river just runs into the mountain. What's so big about that? But it curves away and perhaps curves around the mountain. I like it. It seems to me, to my mind, the trees are all framing elements. And I think you've done a really good job with the red and the pine on the right and multiple pines on the left, sort of framing this river and even framing the mountain. And the trees all just draw us into the mountain. So it's a good framing. And I think the trees on the right can even be thought of as they progress down as a leading line to my mind. So I think you did a really good job positioning yourself and taking this picture and setting up the image. Thank you. Next.
Baton race at a birthday party.
It took me a second to see the baton, but that was, that was my my bad. In this case, she's passing it off, so I wonder why only the party girl, I'm guessing that is the birthday girl, why she's the only one in focus. I think that I would have appreciated it more if both of them, I think both of them are the subject of this image. I think both of them should be in focus, in really sharp focus. Only the princess girl seems to be in really sharp focus. So I think that's, but I do appreciate that they're not directly dead center. It might have worked with one of them looking towards you and one of them looking away if they were dead center. But it's an interesting position where they are, and you have to think about it because it gives us all that space for the girl to run into after she's taken the baton. So thank you. Next.
Awestruck.
This is not showing up for me.
You're not seeing an image?
There we go. Now I am. Okay. Awestruck. What I liked here was how the shadows of the people sort of matched the lines in the dark sand right in front of them. And then we had all this power and energy of the waves. All the foam seems to me to hold a lot of energy, and it's threatening to overwhelm the dark sand and perhaps overwhelm the people. I'm glad the people are in there for that reason, but I'm also glad because it gives us a sense of scale for the whole image. So that was well done. They're in a good position. They're not too close to the edge. The energy of the waves is the real story, and I'm really enjoying looking at this. This is something I think you could sit at. You wouldn't just oh, that's pretty and walk on. I think this is something that would capture your interest and make you sit and think about it for a while. Thank you. Next.
Between seasons.
Great stairwell. I love that the leaves are leading you right up that stairwell. It curves off a little to the right, so we don't know where it's going. To me, the trees, I liked how you pictured this. The stairs curve up to these trees, and the trees seem to be a gate into another world. I don't know if that's your intention when you took that, but that's what I'm taking away. That's what I'm reading into this image that you're giving me. And everything seems much more green and alive on this side of the trees, and it's a little less green on the other side, and that may just be my imagination running away with me. But I really love the light here in these stairs and the green around them. I think the light is really interesting. I don't know if this is a little glen that you're in right here taking this picture, but I think that stopping here and grabbing this image was really insightful on your part. And I don't think I'd change anything. Thank you. Next.
Hanging by a thread.
Your title tells me hanging by a thread, but the thread it's hanging by is out of focus. If you did, titled it something else and we're talking about the flower, then okay, the flower is the only thing that should be in focus. So maybe the flower and the thread should be in focus here, because that's what you've given me in the title. You've told me in the title to look at hanging by the thread. So I just wish that had been in focus in this image. Other than that, I like that the background is softly focused, so it's not distracting us. The light is really good on this. I just wish the focus was a little better. Thank you. Next.
Fuyu persimmon just before the leaves drop.
A lovely shot of the persimmons. I don't know how you lit it and what you spent time to turn the backdrop black, but it's a beautiful image of the leaf. The leaf is just fascinating. I love it. The persimmon is great. I have persimmons. I have the ugly persimmons. I have the persimmons that are only ripe for about a month, and then they're other than that they're tasteless. They're bitter. So I love this. I love this persimmon. I love that you have included the branch that's leading up to it. You could have just captured the persimmon and the leaf and brought them inside, but you included the branch. So and I love the light. You've got a light on the persimmon and a separate light on the leaf, and the leaf colors in the leaf are lovely. Thank you. Next.
Chasing the light.
Well, this is good. This is interesting. I like. Well, I like the roadway is nice. You've got a nice S curve leading you in and around these trees. I was looking a lot at the light, and I really appreciate that you didn't just grab the roadway. That you grabbed that. You went further to the right and grabbed that other tree. So we can see where the light is coming from and how it's coming through these trees, and that sort of focuses the light, why it's not more spread out, why we can see these rays of light. You've chosen a filter to make it a little softer, make it a little more painterly, look like you painted it. So that was an interesting choice on your part, but I'm really appreciating the light. I don't know if the filter enhanced the light, but that is that is the thing that's talking to me in this image. Thank you. Next.
Sunrise at Zabriskie Point.
You get a lot of interesting shadows at Zabriskie Point and sunrise. I'm glad you've included a couple people in the image to give us a sense of size. And the people are not right in the center. The people are off to the side of your image because they're not the subject. They're just there to give us some incidental information about it. And these rocks that you've chosen are really capturing the sun very well with some good shadows and some good patterns. Have you take a look at this in black and white. Only sometimes these Zabriskie points look good in black and white, and sometimes they don't. Since there aren't too many different colors, this might not look so great in black and white. It might just be, too few differentiations in lightness, but well captured. Thank you. Next.
Moving to travel category, basic level, 2 images. Bar San Miguel de Allende, a notorious bar in this colorful city.
Well, I love the colors. I love the reds and yellows. And that character, the person in there, is really nice. I like his hat. He seems to really fit into this bar scene. And I really feel that if I went there, I would, this is what it would feel like. This is what I would see. So I think that you really captured a feeling for this place, this bar in San Miguel. So thank you. Next.
China's skyscrapers, old and new, Tibetan temple from Xi'an City Wall.
I look at this and I think, well, I want to live in the Tibetan temple. I don't want to live in those ugly skyscrapers. And while I think that, and while I feel that if I went there, this is what I would see, I wonder if your image would be better if it had fewer skyscrapers. I think that the Tibetan temple is really what you want to show off, because it is so lovely. And I realized that that's a completely different image of just the temple rather than the temple and the skyscrapers. And then the skyscrapers are part of the travel to China, and it is part of the old and the new living together. So that is a good travel image. It does show what I'll see there. Thank you. Next.
Travel intermediate. Dancing on ice, an example of one of the exhibits at the 2014 Fairbanks World Ice Art Festival.
When I first started in submitting images in Alameda, I would hear judges say, "Oh, you're just taking a picture of someone else's art." And this year, I finally scoured the rules for that. And there's nothing in the rules that says you can't take pictures of someone else's art. I've talked with one other judge, and he thinks, well, yes, it's just not very creative. You're taking someone else's work, but this, I feel, in this case, it does work. If I went to, you're showing off the World Ice Art Festival, so showing me this piece of artwork is what I would see at the Ice Festival. So I think it does work here in travel. I think that you can show me someone else's art and have it work as a travel image. So well done, thank you.
Camp on the Taku Glacier, Juneau Icefield, Alaska.
Okay, now this is someplace I'm not going to be going. I do feel it's cold up there. They've got things wrapped up to protect them from the cold. I'm not going there. It seems a little, I don't know if it was the conditions the camera had to work with. It seems like this is an old image that was scanned. There's a lot of stuff in the upper right that that should have been cleaned up. Or maybe it's just from the scanner or what have you, but I think there's a lot of things that should have been cleaned up from this, and you can't go in and you're supposed to represent what you saw there. Well, I don't think that's what you saw there. So it's a tear between when the rules say, well, you can't clone things out, and the rules that say, oh, well, you have to represent what you saw there. So think about that. Think about how far you want to go with that, what you can do to clean it up without violating the rules. Thank you. Next.
Kettle Junction, Death Valley, elevation 4,150 feet, is at the junction of Racetrack and Hunter Mountain roads. One needs a high clearance 4x4 vehicle to travel to these parts.
Yep. That's a good travel story. That would fit into a story about Death Valley. There are lots of pieces to Death Valley, so you'd want to tell them about Kettle Junction. It's a good picture of that. You need this because you need to a frame of reference. That's why you need a picture this big of this. You need a frame of reference of Kettle Junction, but I'm glad you put the sign off to the side. You didn't center it. Two reasons. One, because I think centering it would have been cheap and ugly and not very useful. The second, it allows us to enjoy the mountains in the background more by moving the sign off to the right. So I think that's a much more useful sign if you're doing a travel thing on Death Valley here. Thank you. Next.
Village street scene, Benales, Cuba.
So yeah, I'm guessing that this is what I would see here. Unfortunately, I don't know if you can get back to Cuba, but what would have been a more interesting image to me was I wanted to see more about the people down here in the street. Yeah, the car is nice. It tells me it's Cuba, but is that really what you want in a travel image? The houses might be nice and they might be interesting, but the car is front and center. And does that really entice you? Does that car entice you to go here? Does that make the image better or worse? So while it's a good image, I don't think it's a great travel image. Thank you. Next.
Advanced, 3 images. 2 outstanding landmarks in Winnipeg, Canada are the Esplanade Riel pedestrian bridge, which connects the Francophone and Anglophone communities, and the stunning glass museum for human rights.
And 2 beautiful structures. And you know, part of me wishes you had 2 beautiful images because I think they would both do well. I think this is, you know, this tells me that if I go to Winnipeg, this is what I'll see. I can cross this lovely bridge, and I didn't know that it connected the 2 communities. I wasn't aware of that about this bridge. So that's also telling people something about Winnipeg if they go there, that they'll see this. So you're telling me something about Winnipeg. You're enticing me to go there with these lovely structures to go and visit. So I think a good travel story and a good image. Thank you. Next.
Glacier National Park. Throughout geologic history, glaciers have shaped this park. The melting and receding of glaciers have formed large U-shaped valleys that contribute to the beauty of Glacier National Park.
Well, a lovely image. I mean, how can you do this valley justice in a 2-dimensional image? It's really tough. I feel the immenseness of it, and you do show us this U-shaped valley that's caused by the glaciers. And I like that you know, you've given us this foreground, a midground, and the mountains in the background, and they're all interesting, and they all work with the story you've told us about Glacier and how it was formed. So that was well done, nicely thought out. Thank you. Next.
Stonehenge, one of the most iconic English landmarks, dates from circa 3000 BC. The stones are aligned to the sunset of the winter solstice and the sunrise of the summer solstice.
So it was really nice of you to wait and you know, get the sun as it started to hide behind the lentil in Stonehenge, so that you didn't get the full sun burning your image out. With this amount of sun, we can still see detail in the rocks, and we can still see detail in the foreground. You know, maybe there's just a little too much foreground. You know, we're back to where the horizon is pretty much right across the middle of your image, and maybe cut down on the sky, because I do like how the light comes across the grass on our side of Stonehenge. So I appreciate you taking the time and getting this at just the right moment to give us this sunburst under the lentil. Thank you. Next.
Masters, 6 images. Iconic stone Buddha head entwined in banyan tree roots with ruins of a 14th century Buddha torso seen in the background. Wak Mahatat, Ayutthaya, Thailand.
A great image. I love this part of the image of the Buddha being taken over by the tree. I've done a number of images of trees taking over rocks. So I'm really fascinated by that, and I think that is a nature image in and of itself. And then you included, you know, the 14th century Buddha torso in the background. So I get a real feel for this place and how nature is reclaiming this whole temple. So it's a real feeling for a place, which is what we're looking for in nature. Thank you. Next.
Matthias Church sits in front of the Fisherman's Bastion in the heart of Budapest's Castle District. The interior as well as the exterior are wonders of Gothic design and engineering.
I'm enjoying the light in this, and you waited to get this gentleman walking through the light, which I think is interesting. And you have these columns marching down forward, and the altar at the far end is lit. So you have a payoff for your work. I know it's not really work, but we consider it psychologically, we consider it work when you go down through this tunnel. So that's your payoff. You do get your payoff, and it's really well lit. I like how the columns are lit with the interior lights. I love the colors. Nothing falls off into darkness, so we can see everything. And I feel that if I went here, this is what I would see, and I would feel there's a feel to this image, not just, oh, this is what you would see, but this is sort of what you would feel. So thank you. Next.
The Breadline statues at the FDR Memorial in Washington, D.C. stop most viewers in their tracks.
And it does. And this is another case of using other people's art, but I think here it's effective. You do get the feeling from the artwork. You do get a feeling that if you went there, this is one of the many architectural, well, not many, what's a good word? Statues isn't really a good word, but one of the memorials that you'd see around DC. So I think that this is well lit and well done. Maybe burn down those trees in the upper left. This is a very sad situation. We don't want anything bright and happy, but I think it's a good travel story and a good travel image. Thank you. Next.
Golden Gate National Recreation Area attracts visitors from around the globe. Fog is endemic to the area and a focus for photographers. Point Bonita, January 2020.
Yeah, and fog is such a tough thing to photograph because it does really screwy things with light. Fog can highlight the building in the lower right, and it can cover up a lighthouse. It can make you not aware of where is the cliff, and so it's really a tough thing to photograph. But that's if you're going to talk about the Golden Gate, that's one thing that hits it a lot, is fog. So I think this is really good. There are no fog is burnt out, really bright and distracting to you. So I think that you did a really good job in capturing the fog. And I feel that this is what I'd see if I went there. Thank you. Next.
Rural school visits are part of many tours. This grade school in a small town in Myanmar welcomes visitors to observe the students.
Okay, I have a problem with this. N4C changed the rules for 2022. And one of the things that they have forbidden is setups like this. So if you're on a tour and the tour guide has arranged for you to go in and have a photography session with something like this, that is no longer allowed. It's a great image of these two kids. It's a lovely picture of them. Unfortunately, this kind of image isn't allowed in travel anymore. Setups aren't allowed. So thank you. Next.
A hiker atop the eroded Badlands gazes down at 20 Mule Team Canyon Road, where teams of 18 mules and 2 horses pulled wagons loaded with borax out of the canyon from 1883 to 1889, Death Valley National Park, California.
So really interesting story. I didn't know that they were horses. I thought the whole team was mules. So that's good. I don't know how you entice this woman to wear red while climbing on these dunes, but so we get her, and she's a bit of an attraction, bit of a distraction, but she gives us a sense of size. And we have a little SUV instead of a 20 mule team on the road. So I do feel that this, this is what I'd see if I went down to Death Valley, and this is one of the things that I would see. There's so much to see down in Death Valley, but this is one of the things I would see. We have a line leading in right in the middle down to her, and we sort of have this S-curve of the road leading in from the right and off to the left, and you could imagine, what happens on that road if you went there, and what would happen if you followed the road. So an interesting image of Death Valley, and a good, I think it's a good nature story, a good travel story. Thank you. Next.
We have 3 images in non-competitive. 2 Russian soldiers guard the ammunition barracks during Russian Heritage Days at Fort Ross along the Mendocino coast in California.
I like how dark it is, and then how bright they are, how bright their shirts are. It makes them stand out. And you can go and look around at the framing, at the woodwork, at the framing of the door, the woodwork, the barrels, everything, but you're always going to be drawn back to them. And those sort of guys are the subject. It's too bad, because I think there is a little color in the collars of their shirt, and we lose that in the black and white. But by going here, we're not distracted by colors in the wood, differences in the wood. So we can just enjoy the setup, and enjoy the situation, and enjoy that, no matter how much we go and look at some other parts of the image, we're going to be pulled back to these 2, and they seem to be a couple of interesting guys, who are dressed up as Russians, historical Russians. So well done. Thank you.
The art of blacksmithing.
This is interesting. I didn't know what part of blacksmithing this was. I guess because of the open flame, it's early when he's still building up the heat. He seems to be an interesting guy. I wish we could have gotten more of him, rather than just him. He's interested in the fire. I would like to see a little bit more of him, but that's just me. This is what he's doing. We've caught him while he's, starting his blacksmithing day. So it's a good capture. It's a really interesting picture of him and the blacksmithing. Thank you.
A bit of Americana in Bishop, California.
This I really liked. I thought this was a really interesting. There was so much to see in here, and so many different parts. These barn doors actually look like a picture window to me. So it's a picture window into another world, and it's the horses. So I was really intrigued by that entry into the horses. The starkness of the all of a sudden the brightness and the colors and the flag, everything else is sort of muted colors, and then you get to the flag and it's all very bright, and it sort of and it's at the high point of the house. It's where the structure starts to go up and down, and that's why the flag is up and down. So it's really an interesting piece of Americana there, that they've just cleared the paint from the door, from the woodwork around the flag, and the rest of the house is left to, the paint is left to itself. So there's a lot of thought about their treatment of the flag there. What does that mean to them? And that tree that is growing around the house. So there's a lot you could look at in this and think about, what all it means, what it means to you, what it means to the photographer who took it. What is he saying with this? So I was really taken with this image. Thank you. Next.
Okay, we've covered all of the images for tonight. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then Steve will come back to show the winners.
You do spend in the old days.
Bravo on good pictures.
No room in this. Do you want some of this corn, Chris?
Sure, if you don't want.
There's a lot of it left over.
And a brief note of apology, Stephen. My fault. I'm in the process of updating our website with all the current rules, including the changes to travel. And the way our rules read is that the rules posted on our club website, whatever is there, are in effect for the current competition. So technically,
That image is okay. That's fine. I just wish I'd known that you guys were still
Right.
working on the old rules.
that's my fault. We've had a lot of changes, so anyway, things happen.
Yeah.
You know, since that came up, I'd like to, since we're killing time here,
Go to-
I totally agree with the new rules that these photo setups should not be allowed. However,
Who's talking?
I just think it's very curious how I'm hearing them applied, not just tonight. Already last year, there were judges in another club that I'm involved in that they were already using that rule. And I think it's very difficult sometimes for judges to know when something is set up. Now, in tonight's case, I will say that my picture was the one of the kids in the Myanmar school. So I set myself up for that problem, fully aware of the new rules by my title. But like that picture was not set up. There were hundreds of children. We were allowed to walk in. I poked my head in a schoolroom. They didn't even know I was there. And I took the picture, but I set myself up for that by saying, you know, tours allow you to go to schools. But I'm wondering, how does that apply to all these other things? Like, what's that barn or something that's somewhere in Sonoma where everybody goes and they're doing, I don't think this was the blacksmith picture we had here, but you know, there's that barn where everybody goes and they act like they're.
Yeah, the old woodworking, not the old
Yeah,
where they cut the since
That was non-compete.
no, I'm not, I'm just saying that I didn't even know that picture was there. I'm just saying that, or let's say the Ross image, whatever that was, where the Fort Ross, where people are dressed up. Now, how do those not fall into that category?
because they would do that even if you weren't there. So they would participate in their Civil War reenactments and the
Oh,
Ross
okay.
reenactments. They would participate in those even if you weren't there. But a lot of things, people go to Southeast Asia to see these people who are still fishing with birds.
Yeah, yeah, the guy with the lantern, yeah.
Yeah, that is a definite setup. They don't
I am
do
so-
that except for photographers.
Oh, I am
That
so
is
glad that
definitely
this
out.
rule was put in place, because I think it's way overdue. It's just
Right.
kind of curious, in another competition last year, even one of the judges just assumed that something, you paid these people to do this when they really should not have assumed that, because you can't tell by looking. So I think it's a tough road for judges to go down, you know, to
Well,
try and
your
figure
title
out how
sort
you
of
do
led
that.
me down that road.
No, that's what I said. I totally set myself up for that. I just meant in
Um,
general, I think it's going to be a little tough for judges.
Yes, and judges, I hope, for those who don't know, I am the judges chair for N4C.
Oh,
Talking to the right person.
we're talking to the right guy. I think it's going to be difficult I just think it's going to be very difficult for judges not to overstep, because I've already seen it happen in another, not that tonight,
And
saying this was obviously set up and it was not set up.
And
Is
judges
this-
are going to make that mistake. I've made that
Yeah.
mistake where I thought people had set up a wedding scene because it was taken in Yosemite and the couple was on one mountain and the photographer was on another. And I said, well, somebody else set that up, and it turned out, no, she was a professional wedding photographer. So judges are going to make that mistake. And I would hope that most judges will, I mean, the rules are really I try to get judges not to disqualify things. And if a judge doesn't like your image, when we did the annual, I had a judge who wanted to disqualify an image. I asked him not to, just give it a 1, and he did. Thank goodness. But you can always resubmit, and hopefully the next judge will understand that it wasn't a setup. The
Change
rules
the
are
title.
really for you to self-impose.
Well, I've got a question related to disqualifying. On the competition website, there is an option to allow judges to disqualify or not. Yet I don't see anything at least not in our rules, and I don't recall seeing it in the N4C rules about anywhere where a judge can disqualify. How is that governed?
It's any image which a judge feels does not follow the rules, they can disqualify. The reason I talked the judge out of disqualifying at the annual is that there are 3 judges judging the images. So I wanted if it's disqualified, the other 2 judges won't see it. So I wanted the other 2 judges to have a chance to see it, and then we could talk about whether it should be disqualified. So the judge, if a judge, saw the image of you at the fisherman with the bird, he should feel he since that would violate the rules, he is allowed, or she is allowed, to disqualify the image. It doesn't specifically say that, and I try to get people not to use disqualification. I try to get them, just don't vote for it. Just
Right. Well, there's nothing specifically in the rules about disqualification. If a judge doesn't like the image, the judge just doesn't give it an award. But disqualification, it's a gray zone. There's,
That
well,
can happen at the review committee level too, though.
I have a question as a review committee person, and I'm glad to see you, Stephen, because it has to do with the preamble and graphic images not of the artist's making. Like, are you allowing textures that come from somewhere else, whether it's painted or there's so many possibilities for textures. Also, things like brushes of birds that are graphics somebody else made. Are those allowed? And I mean allowed in any of them, including creative and pictorial.
okay. The second part is easier to answer. The graphics of birds that were created by someone else is definitely not allowed. As for the textures, that's something N4C, can't keep up. We don't move as fast as Photoshop does.
Brushes that are for rain.
So it's tough for us to keep up with all the changes and all the filters that Photoshop does.
Right.
I
mean, what about clouds?
And I would also say that if you're talking about textures, you could say let's say wabi-sabi. Textures of wall surfaces, of earth surfaces. They're textures.
And you
And-
take it yourself.
Yeah.
And if you take it yourself.
Yeah, right.
Yes, I have no problem.
But
if you
it
take
is
yourself.
made by somebody else.
Oh,
I have no
everything
problem
is
if you
made.
create
Every
the texture
picture-
yourself.
Everything we take a picture of is made from somebody else.
Well,
That's
bingo.
always been part of what the rules implied, is that you need to take the photo yourself.
Right.
So if you're using a texture, if you're using any number of things, as long as you took it.
Take a picture of a picture in a book?
Well,
No,
actually, if you look, if you think about it, it legitimately follows the rules to do that.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Really?
I would say that if it's in a collage setting where you have put multiple pictures together, yes, but
Yes.
not of an actual picture.
Right,
But
I mean,
I'm not a judge.
right, exactly. I think if you just take a picture of somebody's photograph, you tried to be Ansel Adams or take the Mona Lisa, of course, but if you take a picture of the Mona Lisa's eyes and put them on Trisha's face, I
Oh,
think
would it
that'd
make
be
me more
pretty cool.
It would be, yeah. such an
Trisha is
improvement.
already at the epitome of beauty for me.
No argument.
Right.
And I
But
get
now
to
you
sit
get
in
into
the
it
house
all,
tonight.
and it's all intended for photographers to read and photographers to impose the rules on themselves.
Yeah, the
Good answer.
review committee is kind of in an in-between stage of what is allowed and what, because we get caught between those who say you shouldn't have let that in, why did you let that in, to you're ruining our experience. And we understand both sides, so we have to really, we walk a fine line.
I can't tell you how many times I heard just that while I was N4C president, and people at Photoclave coming up and saying, I don't like that you allowed this, I want you to change it. And it's, you'll find some people at clubs like this and some don't, and everything's a compromise.
Well, we appreciate you trying to pick a path and go down it. And I'm personally so glad you got rid of the staged canned images. If I saw one more of that bird in Thailand, I was going
Right.
to scream.
Or as you
Or
like
the
to
lady
say-
with the big cigar in Havana. The big cigar lady in Havana that charges $1 to take her picture. I mean, how many hundreds of times have we seen that woman?
Yeah.
So I'm very good. I know you have a tough job, but we appreciate it.
Well, it
Thank
wasn't
you.
me who I don't change all these rules on my own. It's it's your club's rep working with the other club's rep who come up with the rules.
Thanks, Trisha.
I thought she was anonymous.
Oh, sorry. No, you are, Chris. You're off to the side.
Yeah, no, I'm anonymous. Yeah.
Okay,
No,
No, no,
Steve,
no.
sorry to have hijacked your meeting.
it's a great discussion.
Yeah.
Good discussion.
Yeah.
If you want to continue it, we'll continue it after Steve has shown the winning images.
Great.
okay, so on to the awards. And are you seeing Monochrome?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, I have to switch to one other screen so I can manipulate it. Monochrome Basic, 4 images, honorable mention. Dan,
Who's not here?
I can take your fish too.
congratulations to Dan. 3rd place, Amy.
Amy is here.
I am here. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this was another image from China in this little town that was preserved to, in light of all the renovation that's gone on in China over the years. They have these little towns that are carved out that are sort of these, places where you can actually see the way things used to be. And this is just this incredible doorway there. So thank you.
Cool.
2nd place, Dan again. And 1st place, Elizabeth.
Wow,
Yay.
good job.
Thank you. Yes, I was foraging in my front yard and I did lie down on the ground with my nose right in the mushrooms. So thank you.
It's really
It
cool.
was worth it.
Yeah.
Really, really nice.
Great.
Nice picture.
Congratulations. Monochrome Intermediate, 3 images, 3rd place. Fritz.
Mhm.
Yeah. I can see that.
Now, this is, thanks, this is foxtail pine. It's a strange species, really only growing in the high altitudes of the High Sierra in a very small group of trees.
Just a short walk to the top, right?
We'll not talk about how long it took. Just we're there now.
Congratulations.
Nice.
Mhm.
2nd place, Ellen.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Love it.
Yeah, I was lucky because there was now I wouldn't call him a real photographer, but there was a photographer out there with a model. So she was sitting there.
I love how her legs are reflected in the water. It looks
Yeah.
like it's really, really super long legs.
Yeah, good for you, Ellen.
Yeah, very nice.
Congratulations. 1st place, Laura.
Mm.
Thank you. Yeah, the rookery is always a fun place to go shoot. It's a little tricky because the nests are all buried up in the trees, and sometimes you get lucky with the light filtering through the branches, and I just lucked out. So thank you.
What kind of
Great
ladder
job.
did you have?
My big lens.
Laura,
Mhm.
where's the rookery?
Is it 9th Street, 7th Street? I don't know. In Santa Rosa.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice.
Close to the freeway.
Amazing.
Great.
Yeah, great.
Wow.
Great light.
Beautiful. Absolutely stunning.
Congratulations. Monochrome Advanced, 4 images, honorable mention. Phil.
Oh,
I did take quite a few of these at lots of different exposures, and this one came out the best.
Love
Really
it.
neat.
Yeah,
Nice
just
job.
neat feeling.
Bill.
Thanks.
Congratulations. 3rd place, Guy.
Mm,
Mhm.
Wow.
can't see in the dark.
Wow.
That's gorgeous. Is Guy here?
He was here.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Well
really
done,
nice.
Wooly.
It's like a nightmare.
I call it marshmallows on top of trees.
Congratulations to Guy. 2nd place, Jennifer.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, thank you very
Love
much. I have to say, I didn't even notice his fingers, and I'm gonna go back and look at that photo and see if I cropped any more of his hand out. But I was so focused on that dog that I have a feeling that that there isn't any more to that hand. But thank you very much.
It's lovely.
Nice image.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So much
Yeah.
detail.
Gorgeous. Just awesome.
Yay.
Congratulations. 1st place, Ronnie.
Ooh.
Mm.
Ah,
Ronnie here?
She
You're
was-
muted,
Yeah.
Ronnie.
Oh, there she is.
You're muted. Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is called a Banksia. It is dried. I got it at a flower shop in Petaluma. And I was natural light. Although I think I might have used a flashlight on the flower in the center because it was pretty dark. But I was just fascinated by all the planes and textures and yeah. So thank you very much.
Nice.
Congratulations. Monochrome Masters, 3 images. Third place, Nick.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Put something in. That's
Yeah, and it's been a while since I've been to a competition meeting, let alone put anything in, but just
Hi,
looking at.
Nick. Welcome back.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I got in a little,
voice.
got in a little late. I just finished teaching a ham radio class. But yeah, and looking at all the other images that are in here, I gotta say, like, I don't know that this even holds a candle to all the other monochrome images we've seen tonight. I say bravo to all the winners in the basic, intermediate, and advanced category. You guys are going to be up here giving me a run for my money real quick.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nick, you're such a ham.
Humble pie.
Anyway, I was on a camping trip last November into Joshua Tree and was just had an itch to shoot some 4x5 film. So here it is after a lot of dust removal.
Really great. Welcome.
Oh yeah, and I
yeah.
lucked out. There were a ton of people in this shot, and at just the moment I wanted to pull the trigger, they were all behind rocks.
Nice.
Oh,
Great.
How cooperative of them.
Yeah.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Second place, Tony.
This was a gotcha shot. I turned my head. There he was, and there the statues were. And I had no idea whether I had it or not until I got home and put it on the monitor.
really neat.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
Love his face.
Good, quick eye.
Adamant.
Congratulations. First place, Tamara.
Oh, thank you so much. This was one of those, I won't call it a hip shot, but a little pocket camera because I was in this, one of the biggest slums in Africa, and not in the tourist part of it, in the parts where you shouldn't really be. And most of the people, as I've told you guys before, I usually kind of try and ask people before I do it, take a picture. And this guy, I didn't really, because I was up on a high road. I just kind of slowly let him see I had a little pocket camera kind of like this, and I kind of pointed in that direction and shot it. And he was, I think, just sitting there. That's his little house, and he sells charcoal as people walk by. But I just, I've always liked that image, so thank you very much.
Really
Nice
nice.
shot.
Love the crop.
Yeah.
Wow.
You got a style, Tamara.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations. Nature Basic, 3 images. Third place, Elizabeth.
Great.
These monkeys are just amazing wandering the streets in Ubud, and yeah, and the tiny ones are just remarkable. Thank you.
Congratulations. Second place, Mark.
Yeah.
Mark is Mr. Macro.
Yeah. Birds in blooms or something.
The bug whisperer.
It's a cool looking bee.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Probably from Bees and Blooms.
Congratulations to Mark. First place, Stephanie.
Wow.
Oh,
Stephanie,
congratulations.
welcome.
Thank you. I was in Brazil in November, my first international trip since COVID hit, and we did the sort of a roundabout tour of the Pantanal, and this beautiful Araceli had her nest in that tree. It was right on the grounds of the posada where we were staying, and you could hear the chicks peeping from inside the trunk. And so I just pulled up a chair, put down my tripod, and I kept waiting for that perfect moment. And she gave it to me.
Right. Wow, good deal. Nice.
Thank you very, very much.
I noticed that this is a very high ISO, 12800, and still very sharp.
Yeah.
And I tried cropping as Stephen recommended. It didn't quite work for me, but I'm going to go back and try it again and see if it will improve it.
Darken it.
Oh, that's very sharp. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Stephanie, the gain on your volume might be a touch high. You're getting a good deal of distortion. Anyway, nature, intermediate, 2 images. Second place, Pat.
Thank you very much. I agree with your comment about the caption. I think it was a good suggestion. And yeah, these are actually vulnerable species because they do a lot of mining in the Andes and there's boron. And so the populations are declining, as well as with humans. And they, you know, it's a pretty, they live in this area that, you know, that's where they live. It's
yeah,
not a lot of oxygen there.
yeah,
Wow.
pretty cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Congratulations. First place, Laura.
I'm fortunate if I have a client that's got 83 acres in Sebastopol, and on their property they've got all kinds of different things, including a barn, and they've had these mated pair of owls that they've had for a long time. They've been there 20 years, and I guess the same family takes over, so I'm not sure how long these two have been there, but yeah, it's a couple of times I've been over there and the two are huddled up together. It's pretty cute. So.
Yeah,
very just adorable. Yeah,
Love it.
wow,
Great.
Congratulations. Nature Advanced, 3 images. Third place, Ronnie.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Well, this was my first trip to Ellis Creek with my camera. I had been there before, but without my camera. And I just was loving these swans. There were 2 pairs there, and they are really something. And so when I was looking, I was trying to come up with, you know, a story for this. I read that they are one of the heaviest flying birds, which made a lot of sense to me when you look at this photo and see how, you know, the effort required to lift off.
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
You get a sense for when they fly over your head and you can hear them.
yeah, yeah, they're huffing and puffing. And I did darken the background because those reeds were so, you know, there's so much detail there. So I did darken it. So thank you.
Congratulations.
nice. Very
Second
nice.
place, Guy.
Oh,
Great.
Wow.
This is great.
I like that one with his head up.
1, 2,
Yeah.
3.
Well, in the third.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I see.
really neat. Yeah.
Yeah, so many.
Let's spend on
Congratulations.
a whale watching boat.
Yes, but nothing.
Congratulations to Guy. First place, Tricia.
Jesus.
Wow.
Knocked me over with a feather.
That's Joy in River City.
Yeah, this was on, remember the first atmospheric river? Joel and I were coming back from Fresno after a visit with my sister. And this art was everywhere. It was so beautiful. And I actually got in a fight with Joel because he was driving and I was trying to get him to look at it. And yeah, he didn't want to, but I'm
I
glad
was
you liked it.
driving.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Yay.
That's amazing.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Nature Masters, 3 images. Third place, Herb.
Oh, gosh.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
Great image.
Very
Thank you. So this is basically you go down to Carmel and you go to the excuse me, monarch butterfly sanctuary, and we looked up and didn't even realize these were butterflies. And so this is, yeah, it's a 400 millimeter lens, and it's cropped quite a bit to even get to see it. But yeah, it's kind of cool, and you wait there in the cold until they warm up a little bit. So I was getting cold. Thank you.
That's really stunning.
Congratulations.
Beautiful.
Second place, Jerry.
Oh, Jerry.
Knew that was gonna be his shot.
Yeah, thanks. I've been following the pair of peregrines out at the on the Sonoma coast for a couple of years, and I would go out there many times, usually around sunrise. And I've got this one male that was flying around with the catch. This is a 600 millimeter lens with a 1.4 teleconverter. Wow. And I followed him kind of flying around. He was over the land for a while where he got the bird and then flew around. And I don't know, I probably had 20 shots of it, but this one where the two of them were just looking eye to eye, I thought it was really beautiful. I kind of wish it wasn't against the sky, but that's the way it is. But yeah, thank you.
Gorgeous. Hey, Jerry, what's that stream down below the blackbird?
I'm not sure if it's something, you know, exuding out of the, you know.
Scared spitless.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. He was flying pretty fast.
Great.
Very amazing.
Dedication.
Really amazing.
Yeah.
Good shot. Great shot.
Congratulations. First place, Bill.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're removing some junipers and looked a little more carefully and saw these amazing little fungi, I guess. This shot was taken in our neighbor's yard. Once we saw one, we started seeing them everywhere. And this showed the whole range. It's taken with focal stacking, like eight or nine images to get them all sharp at the same time.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Nicely done.
So cool looking.
This is just one shot. It's also the same macro lens, but as Stephen pointed out, the middle one is sharp, the other two are not, and that's why I did focal stacking on the first image. Amazing function. I've never seen this sort of thing before. Now I'm seeing them everywhere.
I've never seen.
Show us nature is amazing.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, it keeps surprising us.
Nature is amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Pictorial Basic, 2 images, second place, Amy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I used to commute to San Francisco and drive past down the marina every day, you know, coming home from work or often, and this just like was a stunning sunset that I had to pull over and stop and take some pictures. I think I took it on, I took it on my iPhone because it was just like one of those moments. So
pretty.
Good for you.
Great colors.
Congratulations. First place, Mark.
Jeez.
Wow,
Beautiful.
nice. Beautiful.
Did he go to Nevi?
I think that was one he did at Nevi.
Yeah, it could be.
I think so.
Nevi Brothers, Rose Brothers.
Congratulations to Mark. Pictorial Intermediate, 3 images, third place, Sherry.
Oh, gorgeous.
I knew that was
beautiful.
That's nice.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it was really a dream to get to go there to the playa in Death Valley. That was in November this last year.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Fantastic shot.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Second place, Ellen.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. This was last year, about this time, a little, maybe another couple of weeks.
And you said I didn't have to get down very much at all. That mustard was nearly as tall as we were. I did get the camera down a little bit. Thank you.
I remember this, the field trip with TAG.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, this is great.
Congratulations. First place, Laura.
Thank you. I was coming back from, I don't know, Point Reyes, I think. And there was just this incredible sunset and decided to stop and take advantage of it. The sky was just amazing that night. So thank you.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Trifecta.
Good stop.
Congratulations. Pictorial Advanced, 3 images, 3rd place, Bill.
Bill Clark.
Was it in Spain?
Yeah, no. He's not here.
Bill's not here.
Yeah, this is good.
Congratulations to Bill. 2nd place, Guy.
Yeah.
There, pretty.
He's not here either.
He's not here either.
Looks familiar.
Yeah.
Guy here?
No.
No.
Congratulations to Guy. 1st place, Trisha.
Oh my
Oh,
God.
yay.
Oh, yeah, she's gonna be impossible to live with. Good luck, Joel.
This was, I took this in our backyard. There's a rose called Just Joey in our backyard. And it was after the Marie, is it Altenberg N4C presentation? She was talking about putting frames around pictures. And this was the image that I took to put a frame around it. I took it with a ring light. One of the first times I've ever used a ring light. So thank you.
Beauteous.
Wow, nice. Gorgeous.
It reminds me of a baby.
Congratulations. Pictorial Masters, 5 images. Honorable mention, Herb.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Love the color.
Wow, thank you.
A
This is
postcard.
we were in the valley after my my son's wedding photo shoot picture we saw last week or the week before. And this was another great location. You can tell by the guys with a 4x5 camera set up. So, and I just took it, and this is one of the few times that I use a 6-stop neutral density. So it's a 30-second exposure.
Wow.
And that gives the clouds and the water, the blur.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
Nice, nice,
Makes
nice.
the water look really
Thank you.
These are neutral density pictures.
Congratulations. Honorable
Thank you.
mention, Nick.
Oh, all right, Nick.
I thought that looked like Nick.
But well, that's not Nick in the picture. That was a couple that we had met the night before. She was a pianist, I believe, who was performing at the Amagrosa Theater in Death Valley Junction, and she had heard to go check out Zabriskie Point, and I had told her, and this was the evening before this sunrise. I'd mentioned, well, you should come back for sunrise. It's really known for sunrise, and they came back, and we had shared hot chocolate out of the back of my car the night before, so made friends with her. And I was really happy I could send them both this picture, and they were happy to have it.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah, beautiful, neat.
Perfect.
Congratulations. 3rd place, Tamara.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank
The
you.
face.
Just an old guy at a monastery in Ethiopia. But, you know,
Hey.
Kind of like thing, you know?
All of us.
it's just like the faces there are so amazing. This one I really had messed with the color a little bit, because no matter what I did, his skin always looked kind of an odd color. So I decided that I guess his skin was just an odd color. So I went back to kind of the way.
think it looks
It looks natural.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, it was odd light. So he was leaning in a window, a big stone window. That's what the stone is in front of him. So thank you very much.
Great light.
Beautiful.
Congratulations. Second place, Bill.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah, I get obsessed with persimmon leaves right just before they drop off. They turn color in about a week's time, and they're very, 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 very fragile. But they get the brightest color just like the day before they drop. So I managed to get this branch in the kitchen on the kitchen table, and the persimmon is lit with the light coming in from the kitchen window, and then I had a second light to backlight the leaf.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful.
This
Thank
is
you.
the one that's in the exhibition, right?
Yes.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Yay.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Congratulations. And first place, Liz.
All right.
No way.
All right.
There's no way. Well, thank you. Anyway, Trisha texted me during this and she goes, yeah, my legs were killing me.
This was the hike from hell, let me tell you.
Where was it? Where was it, Liz?
Sugarloaf up, after you go to the
Oh, Vista
waterfall.
Trail.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Bill. Well, thank you.
At least there was a reward for all that effort.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Nice shot.
Yeah, we didn't see any bears before it got dark.
Good.
Thank you.
I was doing the clap.
Congratulations. Travel Basic, 2 images, second place. Amy.
Oh, nice.
All right.
All right, Amy.
Yeah, thank you. I loved the contrast there. And I mean, I think it's kind of, I don't think you can go wrong with shooting a gold roof. I mean, it just jumps out of the image on you. So thank you.
Literally, they don't make roofs like that anymore.
I mean, they probably would if you paid for it. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love the flags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Congratulations. First place, Elizabeth.
I love this.
Thank you. This place is so notorious, it's almost cliche. But when this fellow was walking down the street in front of me, I just couldn't resist. So that's as close to Bar San Miguel as I'll ever get. But I look forward to going back. It's a gorgeous city.
I can hear the harmonica in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Congratulations.
I like the foot business next door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technology.
Podiatrist.
Travel Intermediate, 3 images, third place, Fritz.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Interesting.
This is actually, he was right. This is a slide that I took in 1967 of a summer job I had. It was a pretty nice summer job. Be able to camp out here and check out the countryside and not have to write any reports. So,
Countryside, huh?
well, this is the Taku Glacier. It's moving from left to right. Maybe.
He's a geologist. It helps.
Yeah.
So if I hear right, this is not scanned, really. It's film.
Well, it's scanned from a slide.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. Yeah.
No, but it's film. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a little yellower than it really should be, but you know.
We're 40 years away from this technology.
Maybe 50. Where I do the math. Yeah.
Congratulations. Second place, Sherry.
Oh, thank you. I don't think it's any secret. I really love Death Valley, and this place really charmed me. People write messages on their tea kettles and they leave it there, and then when the sun gets too full, the Park Service will take some down and they store it down at the visitor center.
Oh, how about that?
That's neat.
Great shot.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
First place, Pat.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you so much. Yeah, and quite a place to go to if you don't mind the cold. These ice sculptures are phenomenal, really. Worth planning to visit.
Did they,
As I
they
said.
still do it every year?
I don't know if it's every year. We planned our trip to coincide with the Northern Light, peak of the Northern Lights, and happened upon this as well. Planned this as well. But
Beautiful.
it's really worth it. Fascinating.
How many pieces of art do they usually have?
Oh my gosh, hundreds.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
Probably
just didn't know how big.
A
of
variety. They have, I don't know if it's hundreds really, but quite a few different ice sculptures, and they make them on site. It's a real competition for these artists to put these together. It's very detailed, a lot of work. As you can
How
see.
big is this?
This is life size.
Life size, oh wow.
Yeah, the people there are probably close to that, well, maybe a little smaller, but close to your size. This is giant. You can see the trees in the background. So you
Oh,
can
that's
see
right.
the poles are almost as wide as a trunk,
Yeah.
So it's big.
Yeah.
What I find amazing is that you can see right through the upraised leg, and you could never see that if this were color.
Right, right.
Yeah,
No, it
yeah,
works. in black
that's a
and
pretty
white.
special, a great picture.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Travel Advanced, 3 images, 3rd place. Jennifer.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
Oh, thank you very much. This is a beautiful city, really a very, very pleasant city to walk around in. And I particularly like this bridge. It has a little restaurant right on it. And
wow.
I happened to catch it at a time when there weren't very many people out, but it's quite well traveled. Anyway, thank you very much.
Beautiful.
That
Great,
museum looks
Jennifer.
really cool too.
Congratulations. 2nd place, Linda.
Oh, well, it's Glacier, in the Many Glacier area, and just one of our favorite hikes up there. Hike up to the glacier from here, one of the glaciers anyway.
Really beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful.
We should have known this was you.
Yeah, it's my happy place.
Congratulations. 1st place, Ronnie.
Oh.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
This is not planned, and Stonehenge wasn't even on my bucket list, but the opportunity to go presented itself, and I prayed to the photographic gods to give me a sunset. And the tickets were all timed, so I picked sunset was like 10 to 4. So I picked like 3:15 so we could spend some time there. And it was completely socked in. And miraculously it started to lighten, above the horizon, and the sun came out right before sunset. It was magical.
It really is. It's beautiful.
Lovely image.
Stunning.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great photo.
Thank you.
Travel Masters, 3 images, 3rd place, Nancy.
Ah,
great. Looks like a Nancy picture.
Yeah.
Well, we traveled to Ayutthaya specifically so I could photograph this head from a different points of view than you see everybody else do it.
Nice.
So,
Of course.
Not surprising.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Nice.
Wow.
You almost wonder if the head belongs to the torso.
and exactly, because that's why I thank you very much, Steve. I chose this point of view because now that head, it's a mystery as to whether it was something marauders, did over centuries, cut off a head and lost it on the way out and it grew in the tree. It's unknown. But I liked having that juxtaposition, and it also has kind of a yin yang look to it with how it's divided, and there's like a dot in one and a dot in the other a bit. So that was what I was going for.
I like the contrast in color too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Treatment's wonderful.
Congratulations. Second place. Tony.
Wow.
Oh, he's still up.
Laura.
Thanks, Laura.
Sorry. I couldn't resist.
If you hadn't said it, Mike would have. By the way, where's Mike?
He's in bed.
This image just stopped me cold. And I had no idea how to possibly capture it. I shot it lots of different ways, and I just walked away with a new feeling for the depression. It was, I can still feel it.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool.
Congratulations. First place. Mike.
Oh, gosh.
Do that.
He's in bed.
Yeah. In Petaluma.
Oh.
We all went to bed early in Petaluma.
It's gorgeous, Mike, if you watch the recording.
Don't wake him up, Liz.
Congratulations, Mike. And dun, dun, dun,
Dun, dun, dun, dun.
Zuccarina.
Best of show.
Ronnie.
All right.
Wow.
Grass Ronnie.
Nice.
Thank you. This is a surprise, to say the least. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Beautiful image.
Yeah.
One of the things Stephen said was leaving an impact, and that one did.
Yeah.
It's looking right at me. I have it above my on the mantle of my fireplace because I don't know what else to do with it. I can't throw it out.
If you can't throw it out, send it to the museum.
Well, it's alive. I mean, it's a dried flower.
So it's still there.
Yeah. It's
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
Nice night.
Thanks very much.
Did a
Those were
great
some
job.
Thank
great
you.
images,
It's
Laura.
wonderful.
That
So
was
none of
fun.
you are invited to come to Alameda because I don't want you competing against me.
No, I think you'll hold your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Stephen, is that some kind of light painting going on around her, or is it a composite of?
it's a
No,
hula hoop.
she has an LED hula hoop.
Hula hoop.
And so it's a
cool.
2-second exposure with the rear curtain flash.
Okay, So
Trisha, we
it-
should try that.
she's light painting herself.
Yes, and if the flash doesn't work, that's what you get.
Oh.
Nice.
Oh, both are nice.
Yes. So unfortunately, the young lady has moved down to San Diego, so I can't shoot her anymore.
Any volunteers?
Yeah, right. I can
Well,
hear about a
that
hula hoop.
LED hula hoop is kind of expensive.
So Steve, we'll see you at the N4C dinner.
He's Stephen.
Yes.
Stephen, sorry.
That's okay. I respond to either, but you already have a Steve and I didn't want to get
Many,
confused.
we have many Steves.
Yeah.
We have many Steves.
And usually I'm not the first Steve, so I get to be Steven.
So we'll see you at the dinner.
Yes.
Annual awards, yeah.
Great.
All right, everybody, good job tonight.
Yeah, welcome new people and nice to see you, Nick.
Oh, good to see you
Exactly.
all again. Thanks.
Yeah.
We miss you and your bunnies.
Yeah, bunny. And we need some bunnies.
Yeah.
I bet there was a bunny in Joshua Tree. Wasn't there a bunny in that Joshua Tree picture somewhere?
Right before the day after I took that picture, we went out to go watch the sunset, and we sat down on a bench, and there was a rabbit that came up behind us and wanted to share our snacks.
The bunny whisperer.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
All right.
Okay.
Nice night.
Video,
Thank you.
video recording will go up tomorrow, sometime
Okay.
tomorrow.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks again, Stephen.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.
Go true.
Hi.
Yeah.